you're on, Phil.
Okay, good morning everyone. Freil Chanukah. Kol shelo naseis b'cholelu. If you remember, there was a machlokes as to whether you need the whole hoopla, we'll call it, the whole parade. You need to have all the people that agree, the Melech and the Kohen Gadol, the Urim V'Turim, the Sanhedrin. There's a machlokes if you need to have all of these people involved in the expansion of Yerushalayim and in the expansion of the Azara. And what the Gemara is going to do right now, it's going to tie it into the discussion of Kitcha Rishona, Kitcha L'Shaita, V'Kitcha L'Asilavo, that when Yerushalayim became Kadosh and when the Beis Mikdash became Kadosh originally, it stayed forever or not? What's the connection? We'll see in 1 second. Itmar Rav Huna Amar B'Cholelu Tnan, Rav Nachman Amar Ba'achas Mikolelu Tnan. We alluded to this already, that there was a machlokes. Do you need all of these, or do you just need some of them? You need to have the Urim V'Turim and the Melech and the Navi and the Kohen Gadol and all of the parade and everything. That's B'Cholelu Tnan. Or is it okay if you just have Be'achas Mikolelu, some of them? What's the nafkamina going to be? The nafkamina is going to be that by Ezra, at the time of the second temple, the second Beis HaMikdash, when they came, the Olei Bavel, they didn't have, amongst other things, the Urim V'Tumim. So if you're going to say that they had to be Mekadesh, clearly they had to be Mekadesh Yerushalayim and they had to be Mekadesh the temple. So if you say that they were Mekadesh it without the Urim V'Tumim, what does that clearly show? That clearly shows that you could go ahead and you can expand / you could be Mekadesh without all of the things. The argument the other way will be, no, Ezra didn't really have to be Mekadesh it, because Kitcha L'Shaita, Kitcha L'Asilavo, it was Mekadesh V'Omed the entire time, and Ezra, when he did his whole parade, it was just like a Zecher Ba'alma. That's what the Gemara is about to say. Rav Huna Amar B'Cholelu Tnan, you need all of them, so how's he going to explain how Ezra was able to be Mekadesh it in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash without all of it? Kisavar, Kedusha Rishona, Kitcha L'Shaita, V'Kitcha L'Asilavo. Ve'ezra Secher Ba'alma Hu Da'avid. Again, Ezra, when he did his whole parade, he didn't have a Melech, he didn't have an Urim V'Tumim. How was he able to do it? Because he wasn't really being Mekadesh. You only need all this stuff when you're being Mekadesh, when you're expanding or when you're reinstituting the Kedusha of Yerushalayim / the temple. But Ezra did this as part of the parade. He did it without the Melech, he did it without the Urim V'Tumim. He did it as a Zecher Ba'alma to how they originally were Mekadesh it, and how if you want to add, you'll be Mekadesh it. But at the end of the day, he holds that you don't need B'Cholelu, you just need to have... He says that you need to have B'Cholelu. Yes?
Didn't King Herod come and expand the...
Right, but Ezra's the one, we're talking about Ezra, the one who came with the Olei Bavel. He didn't actually build it, but Ezra's the one who came with the Olei Bavel, and he's the one who, quote-unquote, consecrated the area. So we're saying he didn't actually consecrate the area because it was Kitcha L'Shai to Kitcha L'Asilavo. And if Ezra tried to consecrate the area, this Mandamer says it wouldn't have worked because he didn't do everything. Therefore, according to that, it must be Kitcha L'Shai to Kitcha L'Asilavo. It was Kedusha Omed the entire time, and when he did his whole parade and everything, it was just a Zecher Ba'alma. That's what it says. Rav Nachman is going to obviously say what? It's Kitcha L'Shai to lo Kitcha L'Asilavo. And Ezra had to go ahead and be Mekadesh the area. And you see that he was Mekadesh the area with what? Without a Melech and an Urim V'Tumim. Therefore, you see that you don't need Kolelu. Be'achas Mikolelu is enough. Says Gemara of Nachman Amar Be'achas Mikolelu Tnan. Kisavar Kedusha Rishona Kitcha L'Shaita V'lo Kitcha L'Asilavo. Ve'ezra Kedusha Kadesh Afagav D'Lav Urim V'Tumim. He was able to be Mekadesh even without the Urim V'Tumim. Therefore, what do you see? Therefore, you see that you could be Mekadesh / again, we started the discussion with expanding the Azara, with expanding the Kodesh, but at the end of the day, we're expanding Yerushalayim. We can have the same, by definition, we could have the same discussion as to whether he needed to go ahead and be Mekadesh the Azara and the Heichal at all. So the fact that he was able to be Mekadesh without all of them shows that when you want to be Mekadesh and when you want to expand Yerushalayim or expand the Heichal, you do not need to have the whole hoopla. Rav Nachman. The problem is that it says Meforish in our Mishnah, Kol Shelo Naseis B'Cholelu. You need all of them. So what's he going to say? Tani, you're reading it wrong. Be'achas Mikolelu. You just need one of them. That's a back and forth. So therefore, you have two opinions. Tashma Abba Shaul Omer. Very interesting. Shnei Bitzayin Hayu B'Har HaMishcha. There was Har HaZeisim, which we know is still there, which is officially outside of the Temple Mount. And there were two marshes on Har HaMishcha, on Har HaZeisim. There was a marsh towards the top and a marsh towards the bottom. Not exactly at the peak, but a marsh towards the top, towards the peak, and a marsh on the bottom. Tachtona ve'Elyona. Tachtona niskacha b'cholelu, Elyona lo niskachu b'cholelu, ela ba'olei gola, shalo b'melech v'shalo b'urim v'tumim. The Tachtona part of the Har HaZeisim was actually niskacha during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. They wanted to expand Yerushalayim, so they did the whole parade. They had a melech, a king, Urim V'Tumim, Navi, all that stuff, and they actually enclosed the bottom of Har Hazeisim with a choma, with a wall, and therefore, according to everybody, what? According to everybody, if you do it with the parade, b'chol elu, for sure, your Yotzei Zayin, for sure, that becomes part of Yerushalayim. The top part, they didn't do at that time. The top part of Har Hazeisim, what did they do? They only enclosed it at the time of Ezra. At the time that they enclosed it at the time of Ezra, they did not have the Urim V'Tumim. Therefore, yes, it had a choma around it, but according to the opinion who says, b'chol elu, it would not be kadosh. According to the opinion that says you only need achas mikol elu, then the top would in fact still be kadosh, even from the time of Ezra. So the Gemara says, Tachtona shahaisa kedujasa gemura. Everybody agrees at the bottom, again, which was done at the time of the Beis Hamikdash of the first bias, which had the whole hoopla and everything and all the requirements. Everybody agrees for sure that becomes part of Yerushalayim. Now, this is not telling us a halacha, the next statement. Now, this is telling us the metzius of what happened. So, Amei haaretz nichnasin l'sham ve'ochlin sham kachim kalim v'lo ma'aser sheni v'chaverim ochlin sham kachim kalim v'ma'aser sheni. Let me say this outside. We know that the chaverim are the ones who do what they're supposed to do. So, bottom part of Har Hazeisim we're discussing now. It was enclosed with a chom at the time of the first Beis Hamikdash. It was enclosed with a melech and a navi and the Urim V'Tumim and the whole parade. Everybody agrees that what? That officially becomes part of Yerushalayim. Therefore, if it becomes part of Yerushalayim, what are you allowed to eat there? You're allowed to eat the Meiser Sheni there, and you're also allowed to eat Kachim Kalim, which, for example, is Shlamim and Korban Pesach, etc. Because everybody agrees it's part of Yerushalayim. So that's why the Chaverim did exactly. You assume that the Chaverim did what they're allowed to do. So why did the Amei Haaretz eat Kachim Kalim there, which was allowed, but they refused to eat Meiser Sheni there? You know why they refused to eat Meiser Sheni there? They insisted on going inside the inner walls of Yerushalayim. Because again, this was on Har Hazeisim outside the walls, but now when it was expanded and they had the walls, it officially becomes part of, halachically part of Yerushalayim. So why would they go, the Amei Haaretz, and not eat there, even though they were allowed to eat there? And again, in this case, they didn't do anything wrong officially, besides for being ignorant, because they actually were machmir on themselves for no reason, and they went into Yerushalayim to eat the Meiser Sheni. Why? Why did they care about Meiser Sheni if they're Amei Haaretz? So they knew the pasuk. We know certain people like this, who they only care about certain things in halacha. So they know that the pasuk says, aser to aser b'shvil shetit asher. If you give Meiser, if you give tzedakah, you're going to become rich, the pasuk promises you, based on the drasha. So they were very makbid on certain psukim. That was one of the psukim that they can be makbid on. But they're also aware, the ignorant people, that it says lifnei Hashem Elokecha tochlena. You need to eat the meiser. There it's talking about the bikurim. You need to eat it in front of Hashem. So they want to make sure that they're rich. So if you want to make sure you're going to be rich, they're going to be ultra machmir. They're going to say we're not going to eat it inside of the choma over here, which was an expansion, which halachically is 100% part of Yerushalayim. But they didn't know that because they're Amei Haaretz. So they were makbid for their riches that they're going to go inside of Yerushalayim and make sure to eat the meiser sheni there. Why did they eat the kachim outside? They didn't care that it had a wall. It happened to have been that in this case they were lucky. It was officially part of Yerushalayim, but they ate the kachim there because there's no promise by kachim that you're going to get rich. Therefore, they couldn't care less where they eat the kachim. Therefore, they ate the kachim in this place. It happened to be, again, that the mitzias are, that the tachtona, they were allowed to eat the kachim there, so in this case, they officially did nothing wrong. They were just machmer on themselves. They didn't have to go into Yerushalayim to eat the meiser, but the reason that they did was because they thought that you only become rich if you go into Yerushalayim proper to eat it. The chaverim knew the truth. They knew that since the whole parade and since everything happened at the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, this bottom of Har Hazeisim was officially part of Yerushalayim. They knew there's no reason to schlep into Yerushalayim to go to eat the Meiser Sheni and the Kachim Kalim, because at the end of the day, this is just as much a part of Yerushalayim as any other part. That was the discussion. But for our purposes, El Yonah, Shelo Isa Kedushasa Gemura, the El Yonah which was done at the time of Ezra, and therefore again, according to one opinion, we're going to see which opinion this is proving. But according to one opinion, it's what? It's still going to be fully kadosh because what? Because you don't need bechol elu, you just need achas mikol elu. But according to the opinion that says bechol elu, this part of Har Hazeisim is not fully kadosh because at the times of Ezra you can no longer expand the Yerushalayim because you don't have bechol elu, you don't have the Urim V'Tumim. So what happened over here? Amei aretz hayu nichnasin sham ve'ochlin sham kachim kalma v'lo meiser sheni. They still wouldn't eat Meiser Sheni there. Again, not for the right reasons, not because they cared that it wasn't part of Yerushalayim, but because they wanted to make sure that they got their riches. But over here, on the top part, they ate the Kachim Kalim as well. And when people came to them and said, what are you doing? This was consecrated in the time of Ezra. This is not really part of Yerushalayim. They said, we couldn't care less. There's no promises of riches. We're only going to be machmir by the Meiser Sheni, which has riches. We want to go above and beyond. V'chaverim ein ochlin sham lo kachim kalam v'lo ma'aser sheni. Obviously, the chaverim who know better are not going to eat in the top part of Har Habayis. They're not going on Har Hazesim. They're not going to eat the kachim kalam and the ma'aser sheni because they understood that if it was consecrated at the time of Ezra without the Urim v'Tumim, it's not a full consecration, and therefore it doesn't become part of Yerushalayim. But what do you see? You see clearly here that how's this brisa holding? This brisa is clearly holding what? This brisa is clearly holding that you need to go ahead and be mekadesh it b'chol elu, because the chaverim refused to eat in the top part of Har Hazesim without the full thing, and they couldn't by definition do the full thing at the time of Ezra, and therefore you clearly see that Yerushalayim cannot be expanded upon in the time of Ezra because they don't have the Urim v'Tumim. That proves that it's b'chol elu and not be'achas mikol elu. Umipnei ma lo kitshua. So why did they not be mekadesh? She'ein motzifin ala ir ve'ala zaros ela b'melech v'navi v'urim v'Tumim v'sanhedrin shalayin alf v'shtei todas v'bashir. And therefore again you see that the reason that this didn't become part of Yerushalayim is because they didn't have b'chol elu. If they don't have b'chol elu, that clearly proves that you need b'chol elu. V'lama kitshua. So the Brisa says, so why were they mekadesh? The Gemara interjects and says, what do you mean lama kitshua? Amar lo kitshua. You just said that they couldn't be mekadesh it. Ella, the Brisa continues, lama hichnisua. So the obvious question becomes that if they couldn't accomplish anything at the time of Ezra because they didn't have the Urim v'Tumim, if you couldn't make it part of Yerushalayim because you didn't have the whole hoopla, so why did they bother building a wall around the top part of Har Hazesim? What was it accomplishing? Says the Gemara, it was a logistic, it was a military decision. Because it was a Torah of Yerushalayim, because that was a exposed part of Yerushalayim, and if you didn't build a wall around it, not because you can go ahead and now make it part of Yerushalayim, it's still not part of Yerushalayim, but if you build a wall around it, now it's protected, and now the Jewish people can keep it out of the hands of the enemy, who, if they got to the top of Har Hazesim, as you can see today, have clear access and clear shots into the Har Habayis and into the area of the Kosel. So again, it comes out that this Tashma doesn't necessarily say that we don't have another opinion, but this Tashma proves the opinion that holds that you need B'chol Elu, and that's why at the time of Ezra, the top part of Har Hazesim was not able to be used because they didn't have the Urim v'Tumim. But you still have these two opinions, and again, if you hold B'chol Elu, then you hold that clearly Kitcha Rishona is Kitcha L'Shaita and Kitcha La'asid Lavo, and therefore Ezra's thing was a Zecher Ba'alma, and if you hold Achas Mikol Elu, then you're going to explain that what Ezra did was actually being Mekadesh it. He was able to be Mekadesh it. The fact that he was able to be Mekadesh it without all of the things clearly shows that you're able to be Mekadesh it without the things. And the reason he had to be Mekadesh it was because Kitcha L'Shaita Lo Kitcha La'asid Lavo. Tanaihi. So now the Gemara is going to say that we actually have two brisas which have this machlokes about Kitcha L'Shaita and Kitcha La'asid Lavo. Again, originally we have two machlokes going on. We discussed the machlokes of if you need achas mikol elu or kol elu, and now we're going to say that we have two brises that prove that there's a machlokes of Kitcha L'Shaita, Kitcha La'asid Lavo or not. Again, that means that when the time of the Kedusha came to Yerushalayim and the Har Habayis at the time of the Binyan Beis HaMikdash, Rishon, did that forever keep the Kedusha? What's the nafkamina, L'maisa? That means that if you say Kitcha L'Shaita, Kitcha La'asid Lavo, then you could theoretically bring korbanos, theoretically, in the Makol Mikdash, even without a Mikdash there. Because that place is kadosh regardless, and that you couldn't go into certain parts even when the mikdash is not there. As opposed to if you say kitchel l'shaita lo kitchel la'asid lavo, which seemingly again we'll have to see if we pass, and it's not actually going to say it, but it seems like based on here it's not actually kitchel la'asid lavo. That's what it seems like from the Zion over here. You have to look up in the Rambam Hilchos Trumos and Hilchos Beis HaBechira. But if you say lo kitchel la'asid lavo, then once the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed until you build the next one or the next one, then that makom is not. It's interesting because we obviously hold that there is some kedusha. Right, there definitely is a discussion, not to get to Mitzias, but there's a discussion about going on to Har Habayis today. So that clearly holds that there's still some kedusha of Har Habayis, even though there's no actual binyan Beis HaMikdash today. Even if you would hold kitchel l'shaita lo kitchel la'asid lavo, there's clearly something about Har Habayis that many of the poskim feel you still can't go there, even at Hayom. Zakta Gemara, Tanaihi, where do you see this machlokas about kitchel l'shaita, kitchel la'asid lavo or not? Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Shamati, I heard the following. Shamat, oh, that's so funny. This is the song from Shwarki? No, I don't know. Is this Shamati? No, I don't think so. Amr Eliezer, Shamati kishahayu bonin. No, is that it? Okay, we'll have to listen. Shamati kishahayu bonin. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Behechal asu klaim lehechal uklaim lazaros elasha behechal bonin mi bachutz uvazaros bonin mi bafnim. Listen to this. This was at the time of Ezra, and again, we're trying to prove whether kitchel l'shait is kitchel la'asid lavo or not. So what they do at the time of Ezra, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Now they were going ahead, like you're mentioning Herod, but at the time of Ezra, they're building the new Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash. So what did they do? So it says that the Mitzvah says that what they did is that they put up a curtain first around the entire Beis HaMikdash. They put up curtains around the entire area of the Beis HaMikdash, and then they also put curtains up around the area of the actual Heichal, of the Kodesh. And what did they do? It says in the Gemara, "Kishayibonin behechal asu kloim lehechal ukloim lazaros, ela shebehechal bonin mibachutz uvazaros bonin mibafnim." I believe that there's a chart somewhere in the art school. It's not such a big chart, but it basically says over here, if you look, you have the fence. They put up like a fence around the Makom Mikdash, and then on the inside of the fence, they built the wall. So they basically put a fence around, and we'll see in a second why they would put a fence around. Seemingly, it's not because of like what we do, like you put up a fence at this house on the corner when you do construction. But one can argue maybe that's what it was. But in the beginning, the Gemara is not assuming that. They put up a fence. Then on the inside of the fence, they started building the actual walls to the courtyard. But by the Heichal, it was the opposite. They put up a fence, and one would say that they put up the fence, let's say like an inch into the Heichal or whatever, and then they built the wall on the outside of the fence. Why? So the obvious reason was over here, when they were building the wall, we didn't care that they could see into the area of the Mikdash, the courtyard, the Azara. The people on the outside couldn't see in because there was a wall, but we don't care that the builders could actually see in. But if you put the fence around the sanctuary, the Kodesh, and then you build the wall right outside the fence, then while you're building the wall, you can't actually see into the makom of the Kodesh. So we didn't care that the workers could see into the makom of the Azara. There's nothing much to see. It's just the Azara. But we wanted to be makbid that when the people built, again, there was nothing here. It was destroyed. But the point is that we want to be makbid that maybe they put them in Orin. Again, I don't know the materials.
They also didn't want to walk on it.
They also didn't want to walk on it, maybe.
By fence, you mean curtain?
A curtain slash a fence. A curtain they would put like this, and then they built the wall around it so that the actual workers, while they were building, were not actually in the area of the Kodesh. Now at this point, Rashi points out that the Gemara assumes at this point, it's going to reject it. Feel bad for the guys on the camera. The Gemara assumes at this point that what? The Gemara assumes that the reason that they put up those fences was not because they were blocking the view. It's assuming that they needed to put up the fences in order to be Mekadesh the area. And if you need to put up the fences in order to be Mekadesh the area, what does that prove? That proves that Kitcha L'Shaita is lo Kitcha L'Silavo. That it's not inherently Kadosh. You need to put up the fences in order to be Mekadesh the place. Once you're Mekadesh the place, then you start building. That was the Gemara's suggestion at this point. Rashi says, Kasal Kadaitach.
You can see it the other way.
That what?
You put up the fences because the place has Kedusha.
Right. One can argue right. But at this point, the Gemara clearly says, if you look to the right, Tanahi. So if you look to the right, Ela Behechal, it's all the way towards the bottom, right before it gets wide. On the bottom, it says, V'kasalka daitach. You see that? In the Rashi. V'kasalka daitach. It's like 4 lines from the bottom on the Gemara, you move to the right, in the middle of the Rashi. V'kasalka daitach. Dahanach kilayim l'Rabbi Eliezer kidei lahachshir ha'azaros lahakrif korban. They wanted to be machshir during the construction. They wanted to be able to bring korbanos. The only way to bring korbanos during construction, according to the Gemara's Havamina, now according to Rabbi Eliezer, is what? Is to put up these fences, because if you put up the fences, by putting up the fences, you're mekadesh the area. De'im ein bayis ein korban. The kedusha rishona badlala. Kedusha rishona is badlala. And again, by extension, we're not discussing it now, but by definition, this opinion would hold what? This opinion would clearly hold that what? It would hold that you don't need bechol elu. You don't need achas bechol elu, because they didn't have bechol elu at the time. So at the end of the day, you needed it according to this point of the Gemara. At this point, you needed it because Kitcha Rishona was low Kitcha Lasilavo. Amar Rabbi Yoshua, Shamati Shemakriven Afal Pishain Bias. I disagree. You're allowed to bring korbanos even without a bias. Ochlin kache kachim al pishain kalaim. You could eat inside of the azara. You could eat kache kachim. Again, you have to eat inside the azara kache kachim. You have to eat anywhere kache kalim like shlamim and pesach. You could eat inside Yerushalayim. Inside the azara kache kachim. Like I mentioned yesterday, it's all on the Dios Klalios chart. If you keep a chart and you keep a piece of paper, it keeps coming back to the same things. Ochlin kache kachim al pishain kalaim. Kache kalim maser sheni af al pishain choma. You could eat it in Yerushalayim. Why? Mipnei shekidusha rishona kedusha. So you clearly see here a machlokes whether Kitcha Rishon is Kedusha L'Asilav or not. And according to Rabbi Yoshua, it sounds like what the rabbi was saying. According to Rabbi Yoshua, the reason that they're putting up the fences is dafka because what? Is because it's kadosh. So they're putting up the fences in order to keep people out / people can't see while they're being makav korbanos. Because again, according to this, without the actual building, you could still be makav korbanos inside of the kodesh. So they don't want people watching that stuff. So if they're going to build the base Mikdash until they rebuild it, they had no choice. Guy goes to that area and he's makriv a korban if he's allowed to, etc. Fine, he does what he does. But over here, once we're rebuilding the temple, so what do? We're going to put up the fences right away so that nobody can see the construction that's going on. Nobody can see the korbanos that are being makriv inside of the kodesh in the meantime. Says the Gemara, you clearly see a machlokes here. Says the Gemara, no. Lav miklal Rabbi Eliezer savar lo kitchel asid lavo. Amalei Ravina lo Rashi mimai dilma de kule alma kedusha rishona kitchel ashaita v'kitchel asid lavo. Maybe even Rabbi Eliezer holds. Umar mai deshmiya leika amar. Umar mai deshmiya leika amar. Very interesting. The Gemara says the diuk that you're making is assuming that Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer were sitting in the same base medrash. Rabbi Eliezer said his thing, and again, this is common in Gemara a lot. Rabbi Eliezer said his thing, and Rabbi Yeshua turned to him and said, "What are you talking about? You're wrong." But let's say, and there's a good chance most of the time that they weren't sitting in the same base medrash. And there's a chance most of the time that they were 100 years or 500 years apart. Not 500 years, but 100 years apart from each other. And the Gemara, when it compiled the Gemara, Vina Ravashi, they put them in the same brisa. But you can only make a diuk that Rabbi Eliezer argues, and even though the Gemara does this all the time, the Gemara makes diukim from a Mishnah that Rebbe compiled. But you can only make a diuk that Rabbi Yeshua was arguing on Rabbi Eliezer if they were sitting next to each other. But maybe one can argue that Rabbi Yeshua was not sitting next to Rabbi Eliezer, and really Rabbi Yeshua holds that kitchel ashaita kitchel asid lavo, and maybe Rabbi Eliezer says the same thing, and they're not really arguing. Says the Gemara, v'chitema kloim Rabbi Eliezer lamali. The only question I ask you then is if you're right, and Rabbi Eliezer holds that kitchel ashaita is kitchel asid lavo, and therefore our havamina that they put up these curtains so that they can go ahead and be makadosh the place is not true because it's kitchel asid lavo. Why in fact did they put up the curtains? Seemingly litzniusa be'alma, the same reason that Rabbi Yeshua would tell you that they put up the curtains so that they could have tznius, so that they construct, so that they could build in peace, so that they can go ahead and bring the korbanos in the meantime while they're doing a construction. But again, we wanted to suggest that this is a machlokes, that one says kitchel ashaita kitchel asid lavo and the other one says no, and we end up rejecting it and saying it's possible to suggest that both of them hold kitchel ashaita is in fact kitchel la'asid lavo. But an interesting brisa nonetheless. Elahani tonight. I'll bring you another machlokes brisas to show that there's a machlokes about kitchel ashaita kitchel asid lavo or not. Titanya Abba Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Lama Manu Chachamim Eselu. We know that there were a certain amount of cities, as we'll see in the pasuk. There were 60 cities at the time of the conquest of Yoshua. There were 60. There were many more cities in Eretz Yisrael. There were 60 cities that had a choma around them. The Gemara in Negoim, in Erchin, counts only and mentions that there were 8 cities at the time of the conquest. There were clearly 60 cities. So the Gemara asks, Lama Manu Chacham Eselu. Why did the Chachamim in that Gemara in Erchin single out 8 of the 60 cities when they were counting how many cities had a wall at the time of Yoshua? Shekisha'alu b'nei Agola matzu eila v'kitshum. Because there were 60 cities at the time that Yoshua conquered Eretz Yisrael. But when Ezra went back at the time after the destruction of the first temple and they went for the second temple, they were Mekadesh only 8 of the 60 cities. Aval Rishonos Badlu Mishabal Arts. What does that clearly show? That clearly shows that if they had to be Mekadesh, they didn't have time to be Mekadesh all of them. They only chose 8 of them. But clearly the fact that they had to be Mekadesh the cities that had been Kadosh at the time of Yoshua, what does that show? Kitshel L'shaita, Lo Kitshel L'silavo. And that's why they had to go ahead and they had to re-Mekadesh them at the time that they came back. Alma Kesavar Kedusha Rishona Kitchel Shaita Vilo Kitchel Asilavo. That's one brisa. Or mini. This is not a really or mini because this is just bringing now the other brisa. Or mini, the other brisa that shows that Kitchel Shaita is Kitchel Asilavo is Amar of Yishmael Rabbi Yossi, and the problem is it's the same exact Tana, which is why it's really an Urmidi. We want to bring 2 different brises that hold 2 different things. The problem is we didn't have in mind to bring 2 different brises from the same guy. Urmini, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi, v'chi elu bilvad hayu. Did they only go ahead and have these 8? Of course there were more than 8. V'alo kvar nemar shishim iro. Kol chevel argov, mamlachas og bashan, kol eila arim mitzvos chomag givawat, at the times of the conquest. Ela lama manu chachamim eselu, shekisha'alu b'nei agola matzu elu v'kitshum. Says the Gemara, kitshum, hashtar amina l'kaman delot tzricha l'kedushay. What do you mean they were kitshum? Ella, this second brisa says, matzu elu umanum. They found these 8 and they counted them. V'lo elu bilvad, and not just these 8. Ela kol shetala b'yadcha misoras me'avosecha shemukafes chama mimoshe shua binun. Kol mitzvos elu nohagas bo mipnei shekedusha rishona kitchel l'shayda v'kitchel asilavo. These are just 8 that they counted, but the truth is that if they would have counted all 60 of them, all 60 were kadosh. Because at the end of the day, they didn't have to be mekadesh according to this brisa. Because once it has a kedusha, it has a kedusha forever. Says the Gemara, Kasha to Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi and Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi. Very nice. You've shown me 2 different brises. One that says Kitchel L'shaita is Kitchel Asilavo. That's why they didn't have to go ahead and be Mekadesh these 60 again. The other one that says that Kitchel L'shaita is Lo Kitchel Asilavo. Therefore, they had to go ahead and they had to be Mekadesh all of them again, and they were able to Mekadesh 8 of them. But Lamaisi, you have a Kasha Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shmuel. No, either it was 2 different students who were sitting in the shir and they misunderstood what he said. Or you're saying no, they're not actually actually both Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi. One of them is actually Rabbi Lazar bar Rabbi Yossi. Which one? Rabbi Lazar bar Yossi Omer Asher lo choma av b'she'en lo achshav v'haya lo mikodem lachein. He's the one who holds kitchel l'shaita is kitchel asilavo, because even if it doesn't have a wall now, it's still going to be kadosh. So it comes out again that we have two brises. One brise which says by Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi, which was the first brise which says kitchel l'shaita is lo kitchel asilavo, therefore they had to go ahead and they had to be mekadesh it. And the second brise was actually Rabbi Lazar bar Yossi, who says that kitchel l'shaita is kitchel asilavo, and even though it doesn't have a wall right now, it's still going to be kadosh. I just want to point out one second that Rashi says, what does it mean when it says that kol shetala biyadecha kol mitzvos elu nahagus bo? What are the certain mitzvos that are nahug by the walls, by the cities? Rashi says, the bottom Rashi. What mitzvahs were nahug by cities that had a wall from the time of Yoshua? So he says mitzvahs batei arechoma, shiluach mitzorayim, v'she'ein osin migrishei and sad. There's actually another one as well coming up on Purim that they would actually read the Megillah on a different day. What's ein osin migrishei and sad? Any city that had its walls at the time of Yoshua, you can't make the migrishei, the 1,000 amas outside of the city. You can't make that into irrigated field. You can't make that into lands of Sadeh. Shiluach mitzorayim have to be sent out of these cities only, the cities that had walls at the time of Yoshua. What's the mitzvah of batei arichoma? What's that? Batei Arechoma, we know that in general when you sell a house, if you sell a house in Eretz Yisrael, so you can redeem it at any point, and if you don't redeem it, you can redeem it at any point, and if you don't redeem it, it goes back to the owner at Yovel. However, Batei Arechoma, the pasuk tells us for different reasons, that these walls, Batei Arechoma, batim within the Arechoma, within the walls, within the cities that had walls at the time of Yoshua, when you sell them, you only have 1 year to redeem them, as opposed to be able to redeem them anytime you want. And the second difference is that when Yovel comes, these do not revert back to their original owner. That's Batei Arechoma, the batim of an Arechoma. Zak the Gemara. Yeah, sorry.
There's a difference between Yerushalayim Har Bias in terms of Kedusha versus all these other year? I mean, in terms of...
We're saying no. The Gemara is saying Kitchel Shaita, Kitchel Asilavo.
Everything, but I mean, it's not like every single year we're concerned about in Eretz Yisrael today.
So the Gemara is saying yes. It's saying anything that had a chom at the time of Yoshua was made kadosh at the time of the base of Mikdash, and it would be Kitchel Shaita, Kitchel Asilavo, according to that opinion. So again, I don't know what the chiluk are. What are the chiluk? The only chiluk I know of is that Har Bias.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So that's a question, but that's a separate chiluk. That's not a question on the chomas of the other cities. That's a question on Yerushalayim itself. That's nothing to do with the other cities. According to that, Yerushalayim itself should be kadosh. If you're going to say that Har Bias is kadosh, the whole Yerushalayim should be kadosh. So it's not a shayla on those cities. Nidma bazar and nelma mimenu tuma. So we said originally we had a lot of discussions about the fact that if you become tamei, then you go into the mikdash. But we mentioned in the second parak, in the first mishnah, which we had, that there's also a discussion. What happens if you become tamei while you're in the azara? There's a sheretz and you touch the sheretz while you're in the azara. Somebody dies right in front of you while you're in the azara. So all we know until now is that it's usher to go into the mikdash when you're tamei. But who said that it's usher to stay in the mikdash if you become tamei while you're in the mikdash? So the Mishnah clearly said that if you become tamei in the mikdash, it's usher to stay there. And if you don't take the fastest route out of the mikdash, you're going to be chayav kares, or you're going to be chayav a korban if it's b'shogeg. But if you stay there, as the Mishnah said, if you stay there and you take the longer route out, or you stay there and you bow, or you stay there long enough to bow, as we'll see what that means, then you're going to be chayav kares. So what does it mean? Tuma ma'azara minan. First of all, how do we know that it's usher to stay in the azara when there's a tuma there? How do you know that it's only usher? I thought it was usher to go into the azara when you're tamei. Who said that if you become tamei in the azara, you have to leave right away? Says Gemara, Amar Belazar, Kasav Echad Omer, because there's two psukim. One of them says it's Mishkan Hashem Timei. You're not allowed to be mitamei the Mishkan. V'chasav Echad Omer, ki es Mikdash Hashem Timei. You're not allowed to be mitamei the Mikdash. Mishkan is obviously the Mishkan, and the Mikdash is the Beis HaMikdash. So you can't be mitamei the Mishkan, and you can't be mitamei the Mikdash. Im eino inyan l'tumah shebachutz, t'neyu inyan l'tumah shebifnim. So obviously one pasuk which is telling us you can't be mitamei the Mikdash is telling us, it doesn't matter which one. One of them is telling us you can't go into the mikdash when you're tamei. The other pasuk is telling us that you can't stay in the mikdash / mishkan if you become tamei in the mikdash / mishkan. The Gemara says, good try. V'krami yasrei hamitzvah tzvichei. You can only learn something from a pasuk if the pasuk is extra. But if the pasuk is not extra, you can't learn anything. Why are these pasuks not extra? It sounds very gishmak. One pasuk is telling us you can't go in when you're tamei into the mikdash / mishkan. The other pasuk is telling us if you get tamei in the mikdash / mishkan, you need to leave. Why is there no extra pasuk to learn that? Because Rabbi Lazar Omer, im nemar mishkan lama nemar mikdash. Vim nemar mikdash lama nemar mishkan. Rabbi Lazar is going to say no. You need those two psukim because you might have thought that the mishkan itself and the mikdash are different. Why? Ilu nemar mishkan velo nemar mikdash hayiti omer al mishkan yechayev sharei mashuach b'shem mishcha. V'al mikdash lo yechayiv. This is talking about in general, going in when you're tamei, not even being there and then becoming tamei. You might have thought it's only usher to go into the Mishkan when you're tamei, because the Mishkan was on a higher level because it was mekadesh with the Shem and HaMishcha. But the mikdash, which was not Mekadesh with the Shem and HaMishcha, you would not know that you're not allowed to go in there when you're tamei. Comes along the second pasuk and says you can't go into the mikdash when you're tamei either. V'im nemar mikdash v'lo nemar mishkan ha'isi omer al mikdash yechayiv sharei kedushas or kedushas olam v'al mishkan lo yechayiv lekach nemar mishkan lekach nemar mikdash. What's the thing that makes the mikdash holier than the mishkan? We know that until the time of the first Beis HaMikdash there was something called bamos, and there were certain times in history you're allowed to actually bring korbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. For instance, during the first 14 years when they were splitting up the land, between the time that the Shiloh Mishkan was destroyed, it was 57 years until the first Beis HaMikdash was built. During those times, you were able to bring bamos. Once the first Beis HaMikdash was built, even after the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, you were no longer able to bring bamos. You were no longer able to bring korbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, you see that in a certain sense, the Mikdash was holier than the Mishkan, because after its time, as opposed to after the Mishkan's time, you couldn't bring any korbanos outside. Therefore, you need both. You need one pasuk to tell me that you can't go into the Mishkan tamei, because there's a certain level of the Mishkan that's holier than the Mikdash, and you need one pasuk to tell me that you can't go into the Mikdash tamei. But if you need one pasuk to tell me that each of them you can't go in tamei, you have no extra pasuk to tell me that if you're in one of them or both of them, that you have to leave when you're tamei. Says the Gemara, Rebbe Lazar hachika kashile. No, listen to this geshmak diuk. Michte Mishkan ikrei Mikdash Mikdash ikrei Mishkan. You're right, but you could still learn that you need to leave when you're tamei, because the Mishkan and Mikdash are interchangeable in the Torah. Nichtov o ide v'ide Mikdash o ide v'ide Mishkan. Fascinating. He says you're right. You need two psukim. One to tell me you can't go into the Mikdash tamei, one to tell me you can't go into the Mikdash tamei. However, those two psukim could have been the same thing. They both could have said as Mishkan Hashem Timei as Mishkan Hashem Timei. It could have said at Mikdash Hashem Timei as Mikdash Hashem Timei. If it would have said it twice, I would have learned two things. Since it's interchangeable, I would have learned first of all that it's teaching me that you can't go into the Mikdash or the Mishkan tamei, and it would have taught me also that if you're in there, you need to leave. The fact that it uses Mishkan and Mikdash, that means you have two limudim. The fact that it gives two psukim is one limud. The fact that it uses a different words in the two psukim, that's a second limud, and therefore you can learn everything. You can learn that you can't go into the Mikdash or Mishkan when you're tamei, and you can learn that if you become tamei in the Mishkan or Mikdash, you need to leave. Bishlama Mikdash ikrei Mishkan dichsiv nasati Mishkani b'sochachem. We clearly see in the Torah that the Mikdash is referred to as the Mishkan because it says v'nasati Mishkani b'tochachem, and even though that was talking about the Mishkan, it was clear that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying, I'm putting my Mishkan onto you from this point on for the rest of time, whether it's going to be in a Mishkan or a Mikdash. So you see that the word Mishkan is sometimes referred to, or the word Mikdash is sometimes referred to as the word Mishkan. Ela Mishkan de Ikrei Mikdash Minal. Where do you see that the Mishkan is called a Mikdash? Elima midichsiv v'nasua kahatim nosei Mikdash. You see that the kahatim by the Mishkan carried the Mikdash. That seems to be saying that they carried the Mishkan and is calling it Mikdash. That's not true. Ahu ba'aron ksiv. The reason it calls it the Mikdash is because they carried the Aron, not that they carried the entire Mishkan. Elamehacha, where do you see that the Mikdash or Mishkan is called the Mikdash? Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu by the Mishkan says v'asuli Mikdash v'shachanti b'socham. Uchsiv, and it says kechol asher ani mareuscha et tavnita Mishkan. It clearly holds that it's the Mishkan is the Mikdash. So you see again, the word Mishkan and Mikdash are interchangeable, even though they were two different places. The fact that they're interchangeable, you could have used one word for both psukim, and that would have taught me that you can't go into either one of them when you're tamei. The fact that it didn't only use two psukim, but it also used two different words for the two psukim, shows me not only can you not go into both of them when you're tamei, but if you're tamei in either one of them, if you become tamei in either one of them, you have to go ahead and leave. Okay, let's go. So what did we say? We said that it's aser if you become tamei in the Mishkan or Mikdash. It's aser to stay there and you need to leave. How fast do you need to leave? You need to take the quickest route out. But when do you become chayav for staying? If you bow or you stay there long enough to bow. What does that mean? What does it mean if you bow or you stay there long enough to bow? That's clearly two different amount of times. So what does it mean? Amar Rava. Lo shanu ela shehishtachave klape panim. This is an important Rashi. Rashi on the top left says lo shanu, middle of the skinny lines. Lo shanu de behishtachavia, and these are the two important words. Kol dehu. Lo shanu de behishtachavia kol dehu. Any type of hishtachavia, will be a problem. That's only when afilu lo shaba kedei shachavia chayiv. When's that? Shehishtachavea klape panim. I'll explain this in 1 second. If you bow towards the Kodesh Kadashim, aval hishtachavea klape chutz. If you bow away from the Kodesh Kadashim, shaha in, lo shaha lo. If you wait long enough, yes. If you don't wait long enough, no. What is this teaching us? It's teaching us as follows: you're in the Mikdash, you're in the Mikdash, and you realize that you're tamei. Or you become tamei, you become tamei in the mikdash. Now there's two amounts of time that as soon as you're over those times, what should you do? You should run out as quickly as possible, the shortest path. But if we're going to talk about when are you actually going to become chayav, there's two possibilities when you're going to become chayav. Or when you do a slight bow towards the heichal, towards the Kodesh Kadashim. Why you would do that, I'm not really sure. But you know, you want to go and bow, you want to give like your respect. So if you go ahead and you give a slight bow towards the Kodesh Kadashim, even though it's instantaneous, it's 1 second, then you've already been in there too long and now you're going to be chayav kares. Or if you don't give a slight bow that way, then in order to be chayav, you need to stay there long enough to have done a full hishtachavaya, which we'll see in a second means kiddush yadayim v'raglayim, to go ahead and put your entire body out. So now we're giving two amounts of time. Either you do the slight bow, which takes 1 second. As soon as you do that action, you're chayiv. You've been there too long. If you don't do that action, then you're not going to be chayiv unless you stay. Not that you have to actually prostrate yourself, but you have to go ahead and you have to be there long enough. If you're there long enough where you could have gone ahead on your hands and on your feet and bowed down, then and only then will you be chayav for staying there when you're tamei. Those are the two different types of times. So says Gemara, Ika Damasin La Sefer, it just says it a different way. O Shashah B'dei Shtachava, Miklal D'Shtachava Gufa B'Yishihir. It sounds like the Shtachava itself needs to be longer than a second. Amarava, no. Lo Shano El Shtachava Klape Chutz, Ava Klape Panim, Avagav De Lo Shah. V'Hachi Karmer, this is what it's saying. You find out you're tamei. When are you chayav? Hishtachaveh klape panim. If you do that 1 second, koldehu, as Rashi says, bow towards the Kodesh Kadashim. Or if you don't do that bow towards the Kodesh Kadashim, you'll be chayav sheshah kedei b'shtachava b'hach hishtachaveh de klape chutz. If you wait long enough with the hishtachaveh that you would have been chayav for klape chutz, which again is going on your hands and on your knees, going on your hands and on your face, chayav. Heichi dami hishtachaveh de ispa shehiyah. So I already gave it away. But what is considered to be a shtachaveh that's long enough and one that's not long enough? The less b'shehiyah is what? Zokriya ba'amahi. That's a kneel. The isbe shehiyah pisha yadayim v'raglayim. That's pisha yadayim v'raglayim. So when I said that you went ahead and you did a hishtachaveh klape panim, it sounds like it wasn't just that you went like this. It's that you went on your kneel. It's that you kneeled, like in the NFL. So it's like that you kneel, right? So Lamaisa, it sounds like right now we're at the point where you become tamei in the mikdash. There's two ways you're going to be chayav. If you either kneel towards the Kodesh Kadashim, or if you don't kneel at all, but you stay there long enough where you would have time to be able to go ahead and drop onto your face and onto your hands stretched out. We'll see how long that is in Mitzias in just a second. If you run out of there quicker than that, if you don't kneel towards the Kodesh Kadashim, or you run out of there quicker than it would take you to go onto your hands and your face, then Lamaisa, you will not be chayav.
You don't have time for a shayla.
You don't have time for a shayla, correct. Says the Gemara, V'kama shir shehiyah, Lamaisa, how long is the amount of time in Mitzias, in seconds, how long is the amount of time that it takes to go ahead onto your hands and onto your face, and therefore the amount of time that had, because you don't have to actually do that. I'm talking about in terms of time, the amount of time that it would have taken to do that. How much time is that you'll be chayav for if you don't run out of the mikdash right away? Says Gemara, Pligi bar Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani v'chadi mei. Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani, one of his colleagues, argued. Umanu, who did he argue with? Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. And some say it's just the opposite. V'amila Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi v'chadi imei. Again, there's no difference in Mitzias. His colleague, Umanu, who's that? Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani. The only difference is, according to this opinion, V'amila Rav Shimon bar Nachmani. Some say it was Rav Shimon ben Pazi with Rav Shimon bar Nachmani. Chadamar, how long is this time in Mitzias of bowing down with Pisha Yadayim Raglayim? How long is that in seconds? Either it's the amount of time Kimemre Dehai Psuka, the amount of time it takes to say the following pasuk, V'chadamar not the amount of time it says to take the entire, to say the entire following pasuk, but the amount of time it says to take half of the following pasuk. What's the following pasuk? It's a pasuk that deals with bowing. V'chol b'nei Yisrael ru'im beredes ha'esh u'chvod Hashem l'bayis v'echiru apayim arza ala ritzpa v'yishtachavu v'odot l'Hashem kitov kilam chasto. How long does that take me? I talk a little fast, but let's say it takes 7 seconds or 6 seconds to say that pasuk. 7 seconds. So either it takes 7 seconds to say that whole pasuk, or the last part of the pasuk v'yichru take 3.5 seconds. seconds, that is the machlokes and mitzios of how long it takes to do pishi yadayim v'raglayim. And by definition, that's how long you'll be chayav if you stay in the mikdash after you go ahead and you become tamei. So that's how it comes out. You're tamei, either you become chayav kares, either if you bow with a little kneel toward the Kodesh Kadashim. That's what it means in the Mishnah when it says hishtachaveh. O sheshah kadei hishtachaveh is when you don't kneel towards the Kodesh Kadashim, but you stay there long enough to have been able to do pishi yadayim v'raglayim, which is a machlokes how long that is, either 3.5 seconds for argument's sake or 7 seconds. Finally, we'll just do the last thing over here. Tana Rabbanan. Keda al apayim. There's 3 types of bowing. If somebody says keda vayikod, that means that you bow down onto your face. I think that's similar to like what we do on Yom Kippur, for instance. You bow onto your face. That's vayikod am. V'chein omer batikod bat sheva apayim aretz. Kriya, when you talk about vanachnu korim, that's al birkayim. That's on your knees. V'chein omer machrua al birkav. Hishtachaveh zo pishu yadayim v'raglayim. When you talk about actually bowing with hishtachaveh, that's not only on your knees, that's not only on your face, that's your entire hands and your knees, like we do again in the Beis Hamikdash. V'cheinu omer havo navo ani v'imcha v'yachacha lishtachavos lecha arza. Shkoyach everyone. We'll pick up tomorrow.